Here we go, let's talk a little shop. Today our tool is the router table, all right? And so if you take and break that down, we have a router actually mounted underneath here, mounted to a table, so you need to see a nice flat surface here that we can work off. Some of you may be familiar with a router. You might have used this in class another year. But basically this is a plunge router, and this particular router is used for another application, but pretty much a router table is this handheld machine mounted up underneath here, underneath the table, so you can see that the bit's kind of sticking out here. So we kind of use that to give us some control, and also for the application we're going to use it for, this makes much more sense. If we have a large piece that we can't get up here on the table, then a handheld router would be much easier for us to use. It's a little bit more dangerous, a little more movement, but this works really, really well for what we're using it for. If you look at it really carefully, if we zoom in here and look, you see the router bit here, you see the dust control system there, you can see the on and off switch down here towards the bottom. This particular brand is a Skill brand, that's just the brand name, and then underneath it is the router, okay? So let's go back and start talking about some of the things that are important. So just before I use any of the tools in our shop, we make sure we have our personal safety rules are your responsibility. It's your direct responsibility when you walk into the shop. Glasses are on, sleeves are rolled up, hair is pulled back. I have no dangling jewelry or anything hanging off my body, and I have my closed-toed shoes on, so I'm ready to work today. Next, I'm going to look at what machine I'm going to use and some basic setup. And so this particular tool is going to require us to use the fence, which is behind, just like the fence we talk about in every application tool that we've talked about that has a fence. It's used to hold something back, usually used for us to gain some control. And so in this particular piece here is kind of a guard, and then it's also helps with some of the dust collection as it moves it away from the tool as we work. So we want to make sure the material that we're going to use is free of any type of knots and screws and any metal or anything that would hinder us from using the tool properly or giving us some irregular cut or making sure that it cuts smoothly. The router is interesting because the way it's mounted underneath, it cuts on the bottom, so it's going to cut down here. Students often kind of forget that immediately when they're flipping it around to do different sides. They'll do one side and they flip it over, and then they do the wrong side, and then we're kind of stuck because we can't really go backwards. And so this is from our scrap bin, and so it has kind of a rough edge on it, but we're going to talk about routering these bottom three, or the top three edges, which are going to be part of your stool project, all right? And so just like a lot of the tools we talk about, we use the term directional property. It has a direction that the machine has to be used in, or the material has to be brought into the blade in a certain direction. That direction supplies us control. All right, like the table saw, when the blade spins towards us, we put the material in, then that supplies us control. If it was flipped around the other way, as soon as we touch the material, it would fly right away from us. And the same thing will happen on the router table. If we go in the wrong direction, instead of having it going into the cutting surface, if it goes with it, it's going to fly out of our hands and, of course, ruin our material, could put our hands in a bad location. So we just have to be careful in understanding what is the setup and what is the machine going to do, what does it sound like, and how do I operate it. So we said it has a directional property. If we look up here at the warning, it says directional feed in this direction, so we always feed from right to left. I'll also take some marker and put it on here so you can see it again, but you just have to know that, all right? It's not I'm going to figure it out. You have to know when you walk up here. I have to know how I need to use this tool and which way does it feed into the cutter. So in this case, we're going to make sure that we're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and we're going to route this top edge here, here, and here. So since it's coming up through the surface, we're going to have to flip this around and put this against the fence. So we have a round over bit on here. So a round over is pretty much just like it sounds. It's going to round over the 90-degree corner. So you can see this isn't going to feel very good on the back of our legs if we're talking about our stool project. And so we're going to want this to be rounded over. Now we could sand this, and it may take a long time to do that, and it may be really hard to get a uniform edge all the way across it. But the router table is going to help us and allow us to do that. So we're gonna go ahead, in this case, since we're gonna use it on this top portion here, we're gonna put that down like this and push it up against the fence. So we're gonna go ahead and when we turn this on, it's gonna spin up to a pretty high rate of speed, and we're gonna go ahead and keep it tight against the fence. Now, the really nice thing about the router table and having a fence is we can actually go over it several times. If you look carefully, it has a little bearing there, and that bearing is gonna hold it back from the cutter, so it's not gonna allow it to go any farther into the cutting head. And so that's a really nice feature about the router table. So as long as you understand what you're doing, understand the feed rate and which direction it's going, as long as you can keep your fingers back, you're in pretty good shape. We never want to router anything smaller than 6 inches. We don't want to put our hands anywhere up near that. And so we have this, we have it face down, we have it tight against the fence. So let's go, here we go. We're gonna turn it on here in the front. It's gonna spin up, it's gonna be pretty loud. So now we're gonna go ahead and take it, we're gonna spin it that way or push it that way, tight against the fence. So hopefully you can see that. It gives us a really, really nice round over. This has some work to do to take some of the saw kerf off. But this gives us a really nice surface. You can see it has that nice rounded edge on it. So that's gonna work really, really well for what we're doing. We're also gonna router the ends, but we're not gonna router the third side. We're only gonna router 3 sides, not the 4th side, excuse me, because that's gonna be the piece that as our stool comes together, right, like this, we want it to come together in the center and create one solid piece when it breaks apart. And then we want the outside edges routered. So we're gonna do that the same way. We're gonna make sure it's face down. So we're gonna go here, tight against the fence. Let it spin up and go that direction. Now I stopped kind of there in the middle, but it kept a little black spot. We want to try to avoid that from happening. So that's a good kind of a lesson to learn. We have obviously going to have to go in and do a little bit of sanding and get rid of that. But if you stop in the middle, right, it's going to do that because that cutter is going to burn that surface, especially this soft maple like that. All right. So again, we're going to go ahead and router 3 sides of this. This is going to be the top to our stool. We always make sure we go right to left. We make sure that when we're done, we turn it off. We make sure the dust collection system is set up so it'll take a lot of this dust away. And that's kind of our tool today called the router table. All right, our video today is brought to you by Titebond Premium Wood Glue. When you're looking to glue something up, always choose Titebond.